Good morning, everybody. So, welcome to day 99 of Compassionate Response to COVID-19. We're tackling various topics through these sessions, and so today I thought it'd be interesting to look at some of the issues around Black Lives Matter movement, which came out of the killing of George Floyd in America, and particularly like relating it to the Buddhist practice of loving kindness, the Metta Bhavana. So I just want to say some things around this. What might be the Buddhist view on some of these issues. Bringing in the Karaniya Metta Sutta, the Sutra on Loving Kindness, and also some of my own ideas in and around views and things. So that'll be later on. But we'll begin with some body work as usual. So if you want to all stand up, we'll do some body work. All right. So let's begin by. Just do some Qigong type thing, just gentle swinging from side to side, and just let the movement come from your contact with the ground. Starts at your foot, pushing against the ground, and it moves into your knee, and then into your hip, and then from your hip comes the rotation. And your arms are just loosely flopping by your sides. We're just allowing the body to kind of look after itself. We can put our mind to one side a little bit. Our thoughts are need to be in control. Just allow the body to get into kind of rhythmic movement, side to side. Having a sense of your spine being quite vertical up the centre of your body, and that's the axis that you're turning on. And listening to the sounds of your arms as they hit the side of your body at the end of the turn. Just being aware of any sounds you can hear outside or inside your building. Sometimes it's important to just kind of, in a way, I think one of the principles behind when we're trying to relax, if you think of what a mother does with a baby, just kind of like rock the baby from side to side. It's like some rhythm. So when we have a kind of regular rhythm, it often helps us to calm down. And on the other hand, when something is changing and unrhythmic, unpredictable, it's more stimulating. It wakes us up, so we can think of those principles. So we're getting into kind of a slightly trance-like state, just swinging our arms from side to side. And being aware of other things like the sensations, the actual physical feelings going on in your body, as your body touches your clothing and moves past the air. Enjoying those sensations, those kind of delicate sensations of the air brushing past your hands. And how does it feel? How do you feel from the top half of your body, your shoulders and arms? What sensations can you notice up there? And in your face and the back of your neck and your throat. So when we're trying to work with our mind and body, I think it's just really important to just understand the kind of few basic principles. Like this idea of rhythm. And slowing down to be aware of the body. Bodily sensations, and bringing mind and body together. And the fact that this is something that nobody else can do for us. We have to sort of keep coming back to the idea that we're the agent at the centre of our own experience. And we make choices to do one thing rather than another. And then that has consequences for ourselves and others. So taking responsibility for our experience, for our bodily experience. And then I think that also becomes a bit of a route to take responsibility for our mental states, our mental experience, our emotions. So I think part of meditation is to stop and just stop our normal activities and come into a quiet place where we aren't going to be disturbed, and then just to begin to look at our experience, look at the things that we have control over, and then doing something about those. For instance, like now where we're working on our body, and also to be aware of the things that we don't have control over, and knowing what we want, but also knowing what we have influence over. So it's good to want things, and it's good to be clear that there are limitations to that. And sometimes we just need to accept what's presented to us by life. So one thing we giving to ourselves here, right now, in this exercise is time. We're not rushing on to the next thing. Alright, so then just rotating your hips. Okay, let's do it differently this time. So let's do sort of 8 different points. So to the side, imagine like 45 degrees the back, 45 degrees the side, 45 degrees front, 45 degrees side. Let's go 8 points. We have to keep our mind a bit more sharp to stay with that idea. And then just pushing like that, stretch. And then the other side. Turn, giving it a twist and stretch. And shake everything out. Hands and feet. Okay, so let's do a bit of face massage, just kind of washing your face with your hands. Just having a sense of, just put your hands over your forehead, and then it's like you're turning away from the world. No need to be presenting to the world at the moment. And then give your face a bit of a wash with your hands. And then rub your hands together. And take a seat for meditation. So today we're going to be looking at the Metta Bhavana and the Black Lives Matter movement, and some issues in and around those two, how those two topics come together. So I thought it's appropriate for us to do the Metta Bhavana meditation, loving kindness meditation. So I'll just say a little bit about it for those of you who might not know. So it's one of the main 2 Buddhist meditations. So in a way, if we're going to bring happiness into the world, so the bottom line for all living beings is, they want to be happy and not suffer, to flourish and be well, all that sort of thing. So to bring that about, so this is what Buddhism is about. It's a soteriology. It's not a philosophy. It's about solving the problems in life. The main problem in life, which is fulfillment, happiness, that sort of thing. So if we're going to do that, bring that happiness about for ourselves and others, we need two things. We basically need to want it. We need to want happiness, want flourishing for ourselves, and we need to want it for others. If it's going to come about, if we don't care about what happens to other people, we're not going to contribute towards their happiness. If we're indifferent, or if we're critical of them, if we're hostile, we're going to not make any effort to help them. But if we do want that for them, then we're probably going to do something in life that's going to help bring that about, in our actions. So it's very straightforward, And then the second thing that we need to bring happiness about is mindfulness. So mindfulness is, it's been secularized through the work of John Kabat-Zinn and others, and in that secularization, it's talked about as being about bringing awareness into our experience on purposefully in the present moment, non-judgmentally, and that is a simple way of putting it. That's maybe not the whole picture. So I think the whole picture is a bit more about mindfulness is about bringing awareness to the things that cause suffering and cause happiness. So if we become aware of our body, our feelings, our mental states, and our views, which are the four foundations of mindfulness, then these are the things that are sources of happiness or suffering. So the Buddha's kind of a bit more specific than John Kabat-Zinn is in his understanding of mindfulness, and broader. So it's like, these are the things that bring happiness about, that are the sources of happiness or suffering. So if we can bring awareness to them, we can try and change them from being sources of suffering to being sources of happiness. So, and then, along the way, we have to take into account things like the realities of life, that a lot of what we call conditioned existence is impermanent. Things, we might have things, bring things into being in life, and then they disappear because they're conditioned. So we need some sort of insight into that as well. But the basics are loving kindness and mindfulness. So the word Metta Bhavana, the Metta Bhavana, so Metta is Pali there for loving kindness, or universal loving kindness, and that's the Sanskrit Maitri. It's universal. It's like the desire for all the well-being of all beings who are sentient, who by definition feel and are sensitive to their experience and suffer and have happiness and that sort of thing. So it's universal, and it has three basic qualities or parameters or whatever. So it's, as well as being universal, it's unlimited in scope. So metta is an emotion. So all emotions are usually, I think, about wanting something, so desire. So we want a new car, a new computer, whatever it is, new webcam, and that desire is there. And a desire can be weak or it can be strong. It can be a complete obsession or it can be mild, So loving kindness can be unlimited in its intensity. We can want our happiness for ourselves and others a little bit, or we can want it a lot, a real, like a massive amount, So Buddhists really try and intensify their sense of care for living beings, and we'll do meditations that are in line with that, and often do visualizations that involve all living beings kind of going for refuge to the Buddha and the Dharma and the Sangha, in the context of some sort of understanding of what enlightenment is. So that's, and then it's metta is unconditional, so it's like it is its own reason. It's not like it's not a trade-off. We don't have love for another person in order for them to love us. We do it because they need it. They actually need to feel supported and encouraged and cared for. So it is unconditional. It's not. We don't do it for an ulterior motive, or whatever. That's the wrong reason. Anyway, wrong word. So I'll just read out the Buddha's main scripture on loving kindness, called the Karaniya Metta Sutta, just to kind of make this really clear for where it appears in the Buddhist tradition. So this is a translation by a friend of mine called Ratnaprabha, who's the chairman of the North London Buddhist Centre. This must be done by one who is skilled in the good, who understands the way to attain the deepest peace. They should be capable, straightforward, perfectly straightforward, beautifully spoken, responsive and free of all conceit, contented, easily satisfied, with few wants and not over busy, with peaceful senses, intelligent, modest, not greedy after gifts and status. Nor should they do the slightest thing for which the wise might criticize them. Then they should meditate like this: may all living beings be happy and at peace. May they have deep welling happiness. May all living beings, weak or strong, omitting none, tall, middle-sized or short, subtle or gross of form, seen or unseen, those dwelling near or far away, born or unborn, may every living being abound in bliss. May none deceive another, nor despise any person whatsoever in any place. May they not wish any harm to one another out of anger or ill will. Just as a mother protects with her life her child, her only child, bring forth an all-embracing, loving mind. Bring forth unbounded love for all the world, above, below, across, in every way. Love unobstructed, without any enmity. Okay, so we're going to do the Metta Bhavana, loving kindness meditation, and so what we're doing here is we're working on our emotions. As I said, our emotions are often what we want, and and I think a good way of thinking of doing the Metta Bhavana is to work on our views about ourselves and others. So if our view of ourselves is that, because we get so sort of obsessed with sort of survival in this world, this world of targets, and we've got to meet. It's a bit like ancient Rome these days, we've got to meet. You got to meet your targets and all that sort of thing, and so we can end up just treating ourselves like in terms of how well have I done? Have I met my targets? Have I achieved what I said I would achieve to myself this morning, in the morning, have I done my to-do list and all that sort of thing. It can all become a bit sort of like that. We see ourselves in terms of our activities, our job, our role in life, in a way, a bit like an object, And then when we fail to do what we wanted to do, we're critical of ourselves. We see ourselves as an object in our own way. We haven't done what we wanted to do, or what other people would have liked us to have done. And we can forget about our humanity and the fact that we're not an object. We're human beings, and we're sensitive to our experience, and we have hopes and fears and dreams and everything. So I think, when we sort of see ourselves as an object, our emotion towards ourselves can be indifference, or it can be critical. And when we see ourselves as a human being, then our emotion towards ourselves, can be kindness and warmth and friendliness and encouragement, And we can actually start to have our dreams and allow ourselves to have a life that's beyond the mundane aspects of survival that we're all having to engage with. So so part of the reason why Buddhists kind of withdraw from the world a little bit is so that they have more time for the higher things in life, rather than the like meditating or simple pleasures, than being involved in a kind of kind of survival, rat race type sort of thing. The world of the householder, the Buddha would have said. So so we need to actually step out of that world and actually reset our parameters a little bit, and be a bit more, re-establish a sense of kind of kindness towards ourselves and towards others. And if everybody were to do this, I remember the Maharishi back in the 1970s, as a Hindu teacher, talking about, his world plan. If 5% of the world's population meditated, then that would significantly change how society was. So if 5% of the world were really doing the Metta Bhavana properly, and actually developing loving kindness towards themselves and others, then that would be kind of like solution to things like problems of racism and all that sort of stuff. So this is today's topic, and so I thought that in meditation we would focus a little bit on some of those issues. So I've talked a long time here now. So let's begin by just coming back to sense of your body. And looking for a sense of where the stillness is in your body, and where the energy is, the vitality is in your body. And looking to the structure of your body to be a support for your mind and emotions. So just allowing your body to sit there. It knows how to sit down. It doesn't need any help from your mind to do that. But you may need to pay attention to the angle that your spine is making with the seat that you're sitting on. so that the weight of your body goes down as directly as it can through the bones of your body into the chair and the cushions, the ground. Sometimes Buddhist Zen teachers say things like, sit like a mountain, mind like the sky. So just waiting for those images to affect you, seep in. And acknowledging now how you feel at the moment. And just a bit letting that be information rather than something to judge yourself about. Try and be honest about how you feel at the moment. Having a sense that you are going to try and do something about that in the meditation. You are going to try and develop a sense of care towards how you are. Just having a sense of sitting with ourselves. Just imagining that, we are the person who is responsible for looking after this other person, which is ourselves. Act as if, we are, you are responsible for this person, which is you. I'm just saying to this person, may you be well. So those are the words that you're saying, but try to have a sense of an emotion that's there, which is real and in line with that. So actually wanting ourselves to be well. And taking your time. Often in meditation things need a bit of time. So not rushing or not being impatient. be well. May I be the person who looks after myself. So now in the second stage of the Metta Bhavana, we bring to mind a good friend, somebody who's roughly the same age, who we don't feel kind of sexual attraction or romantic attraction towards. They're just a friend, keeping it simple. Another person that we're friendly with. Just having a sense of just sitting with them side by side. Of being there for them. Maybe as we sit there with them, we tune into how they are at the moment, how they feel, what they're concerned about. Also, even what they're pleased about. We're engaging with their lives. We're identifying with their lives, wanting them to be well. So we all know what it's like to accompany somebody, or for somebody to accompany us. To feel a sense of solidarity towards another person or from another person. And if you start to wander off into some fantasy land or get a bit lost as to what you're supposed to be doing here, just kind of come back to your body, sitting like a mountain, mind like the sky. Sense of space, spaciousness, in your experience. Sense of care for yourself turning into a sense of care for another person, a friend. May they be well. So now in the third stage, we would normally bring to mind a neutral person. I think in the circumstances of this session today, I think let's bring to mind George Floyd. So having a sense of George Floyd as being, a living being, and just trying to keep our mind on the similarity between his life and our own. Like us, he will have had happiness at times, will have suffered, will have got things right sometimes, and sometimes will have got things wrong. Will have made effort will have had regrets. So having a sense of George being somebody that we, just like we can have a sense of we are the person we're looking after, or the friend is the person we're looking after. George is the person we're looking after at the moment in this stage. We're sitting by in solidarity purely because of our similarity as living beings. Having a sense of accompanying and being accompanied. Of giving and receiving. May he be well. And we might make the meditation a little bit more graphic by just imagining that maybe we're stood behind George and we're pushing him in the direction of happiness. We're kind of leaning into his back, like we really want him to do well. We really want him to be happy, to be flourishing. This isn't about some kind of romantic idea about compassion in the world. It's a real emotion, a real desire, a real wanting something to be the case that we're committed to. And we're doing it for its own reason, because he needs to be looked after, he needs to be cared for, like all beings. So it's unconditional. And if we get lost or forget what we're doing, just come back to yourself, to your body, sitting like a mountain, mind like the sky. Back to a sense of accompanying and being accompanied by. Yeah. George in our meditation. So just saying goodbye to George. So normally in the fourth stage of the Metta Bhavana, we would bring to mind somebody that we have difficulty with. So under the circumstances, I think it's appropriate to bring to mind the police officer, so this might evoke strong feelings for you. And it might be painful for you. But just kind of coming back to what I was saying earlier, you know, that the bottom line for all living beings is they want to be well, want to be happy and not suffer. And that if we're to bring that about for ourselves and them, we need to have two things. We need to want it for ourselves and them, want happiness for them, ourselves and them. We need to bring mindfulness to our mental states, to our situation. We're trying to have a sense that the kinds of things that the police officer has gone through in his life has been pretty similar to what we have. That just like us, he's probably made mistakes, he's probably done well, he's had successes. Maybe he's had tragedy in his life. Maybe he's had ways in which he's had privilege at some times, and he's also had unfairness. Whatever situation a living being is in, whether they're in a hell realm or a God realm, human realm, animal realm, hungry ghost realm or jealous God's realm, each of those realms has its dangers, has its benefits and its threats, you know, ways in which a person can be defeated. So having a sense of just sitting with the police officer with that thought. And if we have a sense of them, if we feel kind of a sense of hostility or criticism towards them, maybe we're seeing them a bit like an object in our own way. But is this what they are? Is this the sum total of the police officer, an object? Are they not a human being? With all the same emotions as ourselves? So maybe just having a sense of just sitting with them, accompanying them in life, and allowing them to accompany us, and wishing them well. And even imagine that we stood behind them, we're kind of leaning into their back and pushing them towards happiness. So no matter what the truth is about what they've done or not done, it doesn't change the fact that they desire happiness and well-being. They need care and concern from others in their lives, support. May they be well. As the Buddha said, we develop loving kindness in all directions towards all beings, neglecting none. Just as a mother cares for her only child, thus is the attitude that we have towards any being anywhere. If we need to, just kind of recollecting ourselves, recollecting where we are, recollecting what we're doing, we're trying to develop universal loving kindness towards all beings everywhere. To an unlimited degree and unconditionally. So now in the last stage we bring to mind all four people that we've used in the meditation, ourselves, our friend, George Floyd and the police officer. And we try to have a sense of our common humanity. Building on a sense of solidarity that we've developed in the meditation. May we all be well. And then bring to mind people nearby where you live, in the same building. They too are not objects, they're human beings with feelings and hopes and fears and dreams. Having a sense of standing behind them, pushing them in the direction of happiness. Really wanting their happiness. Wanting them to sort of do well, to thrive. Allowing them all to be fallible, to make mistakes. Not judging them. And just allowing your kindness to extend out into the world, including more and more living beings, more people. Human beings of all the different genders and races, social situations. May they all be well. Non-human beings like animals and birds and fish, insects, beings on other planets. Just encompassing every possible living being everywhere in the universe. To feel passionately that we really want them to be well, to be successful, to be happy, fulfilled, have meaningful lives. Now just relaxing any effort that you're making to develop loving kindness towards yourself and others. And becoming aware of your body, sitting in the room, of your sense experience. In your own time, bring your meditation to a close. All right. So, getting on to the topic of Metta, Bhavana and Black Lives Matter. So I think the main. So I think that what I said earlier about the Metta Bhavana and that meditation, hopefully, just really emphasizes like the Buddha's position on living beings and loving kindness. So it's sort of obvious that Buddhists would be completely behind something like Black Lives Matter, because Black Lives Matter is saying, the Black lives are valuable and black experience is valuable, and it's expressing the sentiments of the Metta Bhavana. But I think one of the things I wanted to talk about today is it's the whole thing of when something becomes like a kind of ideology whereby it's almost like I'll start off by talking about the description of the Dharma in the Triratna. So the Triratna means salutation to the three jewels. So this is a text that's just recited by Buddhists all over the world. So when it's talking about the Dharma, the text is talking about the Dharma. It says Swagato Bhagavata Dharmo Sanditiko Akaliko Ehipasiko Opanayiko Pachatang Veditabo Venuhiti. Right, so this means well communicated is the teaching of the richly endowed one, immediately apparent, perennial, of the nature of a personal invitation, progressive, to be understood individually by the wise. So this is a description of how the teaching of the Buddha, the Dharma, should be approached, right? So what I want to pull out here is that it says of the nature of a personal invitation. So the word there is ehipasiko, and in the Buddhist scriptures, when the Buddha talked to had a conversation with somebody, and then they expressed an interest in Buddhism, he would say something like ehipasiko. He would say, "Come, monk." He would say, in a way, it's like, "Come and see." So, what this is saying basically is that it's expressing the Buddhist value that all religion is of a personal invitation. It's of the nature of a personal invitation. It's an individual's free choice. Okay. So in the from something like 2008 onwards, in the mindfulness world, there's been a bit of a dialogue going on between Buddhism and science, and one of the foremost people in that dialogue has been somebody called Francisco Varela, who actually died of cancer, but he, I think in about 2001. But his book his books have been quite key in understanding things. So there's this book, The View from Within, First Person Approaches to the Study of Consciousness. So by Francisco Varela and John, it's edited by Francisco Varela and Jonathan Shear. So the title of the book indicates that there's a view from within and there's a view from without. So the world of science, maybe, and also politics, deals with the world as experienced from without, the world you can see, out there for you, that's out there, and then the world from within is completely different. So it's like my experience can only be accessed by me. Nobody can enter into my mind and tell me what's actually going on. They can only observe from outside. But so I think because of this, all kind of faith is a matter of personal conviction. It's like I'm the only one who can decide what I believe in and don't believe in. So when it comes to something like politics and religion interacting, coming together, you can get a bit of a mishmash of stuff going on, So it feels a bit like the Black Lives Matter movement is a bit of a political movement, but what it's asking us to do is to change our internal experience, to become less racist. But I cannot judge how racist somebody else is. Only they can judge that, because they judge that by looking at their conscience and saying, "Oh yeah, I am a bit racist," or I'm not racist, So I think the whole thing, when you bring politics and religion together, it tends to create a bit of a mess. So what you end up happening is that you end up with one person's views or a group's views being imposed on another group or other people. Okay. So I talked about in the Metta Bhavana about so we have the 4 foundations of mindfulness again. So we've got views influencing mind, which includes the emotions. So when we see a person as an object, which is our view, if our view of a person is they're an object, then what tends to happen is like our emotion towards them. If we see there's another black person, it's racism, And what tends to happen from there is that our actions tend to be oppressive. That oppresses the person. So this is like that. That's how that works. But we've also got this sort of thing. So if our view is that our particular group, so maybe, for instance, white. If our group is like white liberal middle class people, and our views need to prevail, then what can happen is that our emotion becomes like a bit like fascism. So it's a bit like we have to enforce that. We have to enforce our will on others. So with fascism, the image for fascism is which comes from ancient Rome, is that it's like a bundle of sticks being tied together. So it's almost like you're enforcing a particular it's like a group hanging together for security, and imposing their will on others. In the history of religion, you often get two types of religion. So one type of religion is this sort of religion. So this is the whirling dervish from Sufism. So what practitioners do when they're doing the whirling dervish, they're getting into it's like a dance, and they're getting into some sort of trance. They're getting into like a trance. But the idea is that it's like through that trance they're accessing the divine. They're accessing the beautiful. A lot of Sufi poetry alludes to the beloved, the precious, and all that sort of thing. So if you look at Christianity back in something like 800 AD, it would be a bit like that. So it would be that a person's faith would be a matter between them and their God, between them and their God. So it would be it's a matter of a personal connection. So your ethics, your behaviour would come out of that connection. So you'd feel the influence of the beautiful, of the beloved, and you would want to emulate that. So you'd want to be kind and, in a way, sort of practice all the what would be the equivalent of precepts in Christianity, the kind of commandments or whatever. So but you do that out of a heartfelt conviction that was the right thing to do. In a way, it would be the view, the view from within. You'd be working on from the view from within outwards. But I listened to a podcast of the BBC In Our Time series with Melvyn Bragg on something like I can't remember the exact. It might have been papal infallibility, but it was something about the papacy. And what Melvyn Bragg and his guests were talking about was that at some point in Christianity, it's almost like the papacy came in and it sort of started to intervene between God and you, and God and the normal people, and it's almost like it started to decide what was right, what was wrong, what was the So it's almost like a legal kind of framework started to come in, and it was it started to become sort of defined what was heresy and what wasn't heresy, and then you ended up with like various sort of Christian groups that didn't fit in with the Pope's view of things would be persecuted, and it also led to things like the Inquisition, where exactly this same thing was going on. You'd have things like witch trials, whereby a person, a woman who was suspected of being a witch would be tied to this thing called a ducking stool, and she would be ducked underwater and held underwater, and if she was a witch, she would do some magical powers and escape, so she'd be all right. But if she wasn't a witch, she would just drown. And so it's like, how unfair can you get, but it's just this confusion around like politics and religion again. It's like you can't access the internal kind of mechanisms of a person's conscience and consciousness, you know. So I think it's confusing, and we're kind of on a hiding to nothing to trying to do that. So, you know, I cannot stop another person from being racist. I can only invite them to a view which is a bit like the Buddha's view on loving kindness. I can say, you know, would you be willing to consider this? You know, that all living beings suffer and, you know, want to be happy and all that. And this includes all beings, all human beings, all people in all races. You know, can you consider that as a possibility of something that you might act on? And so, you know, yeah. So it's a bit like I'm inviting that person to get into dialogue about the truth of things, you know. And I think I mean, actually, there's this image here on the cover of the book. I think that's by Picasso. It's probably from Picasso's Blue Period. There's something about that face, I think, which is it almost, for me, it sums up the sadness of somebody who's trying to like work on the world through other people, you know, who wants things to change, but they think that the only way that they can do that is by getting other people to change, or, you know, by political movements and that sort of thing. And I think there's always that sense of like emptiness there, you know, that because other people are outside of our control, you know. We cannot. We can try and influence them. We can try and talk to them, and we can try and exemplify things for them. But we can't actually change them from, you know, what's going on inside, you know. So in the Buddhist tradition, you've got something called the four Sangravastus. So these are the four ways in which they're sometimes called the means of conversion in Buddhism. So you could say that this is how you go about trying to get people to be Buddhists, if you're a Buddhist, you know. So what you don't do is force them into it. You don't conscript them into it. You don't tell them that that is what they are, you know, no matter what they think. What you do is you do four things. You try and be generous towards them, you know, so you try and give them your time, give them your experience, you know, give them anything, you know. So you basically, you're demonstrating your understanding of their needs as human beings. So it's not like you're separating yourself from them. So you're being open-handed with them. So that's what's more attractive than that, you know. So often it's the way that we get people to follow our religion is through attraction, according to Buddhism. So it's like it's attractive, and you don't do this in a kind of a sort of cynical kind of way of like, oh, I'm going to attract people by you do it. It doesn't work unless you actually do it in a genuine sort of way. Through you actually see their needs, and you, in a heartfelt way, you want to help them. You know, yeah. So you can't do this artificially. The second thing that you do is you speak to them kindly. So this is so the first in the Pali, the first word is dana, or generosity. Second Sangravastu is priyavadita. So priya means friendly, and Vajda means speech. So it's like friendly speech, kindly speech. So again, what you're doing is you're getting into dialogue, and you're often demonstrating your understanding of their situation, and it just warms them up as a person. They feel somebody's speaking in a kindly way, and obviously, if it's genuine, it's got to be coming from a sense of loving kindness towards them. You've been doing the Metta Bhavana to start with, and then you're just speaking kindly to them. So if it's, whether it's a police officer, or it's another black person, or it's somebody of another race, or that's how you speak. The third Sangravastu is something called I think it's Artacharya, or beneficial activity. So it's something like working side by side with somebody and doing something that's actually beneficial. So people experience this, don't they, when they're working together in teams, and on a project that they both value. That it's really bonding to do that, to work together with others. So in a way, if the world was working a lot more in that way together, I was talking yesterday about the difference between business people and employed people, and how that can be just two very different worlds. Well, in the old days, when America was getting set up by the Pilgrim Fathers, and then some of the way the Pilgrims started to set up kind of businesses was more like that. It was more about a family kind of thing, where it wasn't just a business, it was a community as well, that sort of thing. Yeah, so working together, side by side, building something of value. And then the final Sangravastu is something called Samanata, which means exemplification. So, I need to exemplify whatever I want to bring about into the world, So it's a bit like the phrase, be the change that you want to happen, that sort of thing. So I, if I want somebody else to be being, kinder to another person, I need to be being kind towards them. I need to be understanding them, or trying to see things from their perspective, and all that sort of stuff. So that's it for today. So what I've covered is I've talked about, the title of today was the Metta Bhavana and Black Lives Matter. Oh, actually, one final thing is like about ritual. So again, it's like you can invite people to a ritual. So a ritual in terms of Black Lives Matter would be taking the knee. So you sort of kneel down in solidarity with black people all around the world, people of race. Again, it's a bit like that needs to be an invitation, something for people to consider, rather than something that everyone has to do. So it loses its meaning if ritual loses its meaning if it's forced on us, So ritual is never a performance. It's always a choice. It's always a free choice, because it's quite a powerful thing to do, So if we were all very conscious that we were doing it by choice, we would feel that was a real thing, and we'd actually feel a more real solidarity between each other, But if we suspect other people are doing it because it's the thing to do, it just loses its meaning. So yeah. So I've talked about the Metta Bhavana and the Buddha's teaching on loving kindness. We've done the practice. Talked about the fact that it's Metta is universal, unconditional, and unlimited in intensity. And that an emotion it's an emotion, so it can be quite weak or it can be very strong. So we can really try and put a lot of energy into our loving kindness meditation, and include everybody, including the people that we might feel hostile towards. We can try and see their humanity and see beyond what they might have done or not done, and not get stuck on that, And then if we sort of stay in our own world, in a sense of like, it's realizing that it's the view from within is the thing we have control over, and we need to be working on that. And then, and keeping politics and religion separate, so, and not, because otherwise we create a mess. We start telling people what to do rather than talking to them about what they might do, and always realizing it is their choice, And then we might consider those four Sangravastus, being generous towards others, being kindly in our speech towards them, working together with them towards things that are of benefit to the world in generally, and being a source of exemplification to the world, So it's like we're not the one who's saying, "Oh, it would be great if everybody else did this." What we're doing is we're actually being a beacon for others in the way that we are, and then they're going, "Wow, that is some way of doing things. I would like to be like that," and then they start emulating us. And if what we're doing is practicing loving kindness, they start practicing loving kindness, and the world starts becoming a better place. So thanks for your indulgence today, and I wish you well. And so tomorrow is the final day of the day 100 of these lectures, and really pleased to have got to this point. Thanks everybody, and I hope you have a good day. Thank you.